Welcome back to Studio F, where on Fast Times Willy B, we'll be stepping back to 1981 and reviewing An American Werewolf in London. Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Rusty, get the hell over here.
Welcome back to Fast Times Willy B. I'm Willy B, and I have got Dustin back with me. It's been a while. It's been way too long since, what was the last review Godzilla -1? No, you did The Crow.
Yeah,
We did the original Crow last year for its 30th anniversary, but still, that was last summer, so good to have you back. How you doing, my friend?
As usual, I'm feeling like a real rock and roller.
Love it.
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be back here in the studio once again. Looking at your smiling face, my friend.
I appreciate it.
Mustache looks really good.
Your mustache looks even better.
Thanks.
So. But today, we're going to step back to 1981, and this week's poll winner was An American Werewolf in London, directed by John Landis. Cast-wise, the two big stars of this one are Jenny Agutter and David Naughton, who the entire time I was watching, I was convinced was a young Robert Downey Jr., and there's no way you could tell me otherwise.
I wish it was Robert Downey Jr.
Not to take away from David Naughton. I mean, I thought he was great, but...
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr., man. He's just...
It would have been another level.
Yeah. Well, we'll start with the good.
Yes, sir.
And this is just one of those movies where most of it is in this category. We'll start from the beginning. I love the intro to this movie. The first introduction we get to them being in England, and they go to the slaughtered lamb, and you can just tell things are off. There's the pentangle, as they call it, on the wall, and then they're sent on their way, and you start hearing the growls, and David and Jack are in for it, and when David falls and Jack goes to pick him up, and that werewolf just comes out of nowhere, I'm like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah.
What an opening.
Yeah, the dread that is built, it's like the foundation of the whole movie, and I feel like if the opening wasn't like that, if it was more like the rest of the movie was in the city and everything, we wouldn't have felt the dread that we feel sort of throughout the rest of it. And so, like, and once again, it also harkens back to the origins of the werewolf, and in the forests of wherever region you're from, but like in the forests of Great Britain and all that, and like, just these weary travelers, on their way, stopping in because they're thirsty, this small town, they know something that you don't know, but they're not going to tell you about it because they don't want any part of it. And it just, like, the dread builds and builds, and the wind and the scenery, it's so dreary. It really sucks me in more so than anything else in the movie, I think. I think it's my favorite.
In this first part of this film, I really like the set design. I think the bar looks awesome. It's just perfectly laid out. I think the cast of supporting characters we get in there did a great job in making you feel unsettled, along with kind of, teasing that there's something more, but they're, staying hush-hush about it.
Absolutely.
They're like, stay out of the moors, and they walk straight into the moors. But with the rain too, just everything, it was just so well shot, so well done, and just that, like you said, a way to suck you into this movie, and I think it's done very well. From there, unfortunately, we lose good Jack, which, by the way, the practical effects on his mutilation there in the moors was also, I think we can just safely say the practical effects throughout this entire film,
top of the line,
are the best you got in the 80s for sure. And this movie is I'm pretty sure is the reason why there's special effects, not special effects, but a costume and makeup or something like that.
Oh, costume and makeup, because it won an Oscar for
it won an Oscar for a few things, but this movie was like the first for some category. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. I think costume and makeup was still a thing in the 70s, but I mean, the practical effects alone set the bar pretty high going forward.
Absolutely.
Especially for monster films, but
And that's
Yeah,
really saying something because there were so many movies that were coming out around that time
yeah.
that, like, every time one came out, it would set the bar a little bit higher and higher.
I
And
mean,
this
yeah,
one definitely did, especially with that transformation sequence. But
because
we'll
what,
get into that.
82, a year later, you get The Thing, which
Mm-hmm.
also did fantastic with
Yeah.
practical effects. So yeah, definitely when you're talking about what it did for movies alone, this movie's in the conversation when you're talking about like integral parts of
For sure.
pushing the the pin to the next level. And no, the practical effects were great. But from there, we get David in the hospital, and that's where we're introduced to Nurse Price. That's where we're introduced to the doctor, and just we're really in London,
Mm-hmm.
and we get Jack back. He's having these nightmares, but Jack is undead, and the first conversation we have between them, I love. This is where you start to see. Before going into this movie, by the way, I did not know it was a horror comedy.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was strictly a horror film.
Like, real serious. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
No,
so when like Jack's back, I'm like, man, this is like really grim, but like funny. And so I was really into getting like an undead Jack, telling him like, you've got to kill yourself, like
yeah.
just straight up.
He just straight up, yeah. He just ends on, you got to kill yourself.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so deadpan about it.
And then he's crying up against the bed. Nurse comes in, he lays a kiss on her. But moving on pretty fast for just losing your best friend, if you ask me. But
Definitely.
Nurse Price was a looker, so can you blame him?
Well, and that's one thing too. Like, it's called An American Werewolf in London,
Mhm.
and like the main character, like, almost feels like he has to be like a caricature of the 80s American male.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that he kind of was. He
Mhm.
kind of like bebopped from one thing to the next a lot. And especially with all the energy that he has whenever he becomes when he's morphing into the werewolf and
Mhm.
everything. But like, I don't know. I think that there's something to be said about the sort of like ignorance and kind of arrogance that he has. That's
Yeah.
like sort of endearing. Um, that like kind of, I don't know. It's they really play with that.
Yeah.
And they put him in this like foreign to him setting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I like the progression of Jack too.
Yeah.
Like each visit, he's deteriorating more.
Oh yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
a really cool touch because we get him when he's back at Nurse Price's house. Now he's out of the hospital. He's with Nurse Price. They had their little rendezvous night, and after she falls asleep, he's out in the living room talking to Jack again. And Jack's like now this like greenish gray color, and he looks, he still has the same mutilation,
Mm-hmm.
but he's like, you can tell he's aging, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
in the undead.
Yeah.
And then obviously we get him one more time, and that's in the theater. But I don't want to jump too far ahead. But in the theater, like he's now he has like you can really see his teeth and eyes because the lips and the eyelids are gone.
Yeah,
and,
there's not much facial features left
Yeah.
for him.
and so I love the progression of Jack each time we get him. You see he's decaying, but he's still in that undead state because
Yeah.
David hasn't killed himself. Now from that second conversation with Jack, he doesn't really believe him. Nurse Price leaves, and this is where we see that transformation scene shortly after. And I knew about this scene being like impressive, and I had never seen it before. This was my first watch, by the way. Of America.
hell yeah.
I know. It took me way too long to see this movie, but that transformation scene is incredible.
Like, arguably second to none. Like, for me, it's the howling transformation scene, like, with his chest is beating and,
Yeah.
and everything like that. Like, that's really intense.
Yeah.
But this was so, like, I saw an interview before with John Landis, and he's like, I wanted to shoot this scene with the lights on, and everybody was really intimidated about doing that on the crew, because it's like shadows hide things, and
Yeah.
so that means that the art department, the special effects, has to be absolutely on it,
Yeah.
and they were able to really pull it off, man.
Yeah.
The cuts, they were really strategic about where they cut. They're working on the prosthetic of the hand growing just for this shot, and so
Yeah.
they have to like really mess with that, and one shot it looks one way and then they pan away and then they come back and it looks a different way in other shots, and
Yeah,
I love how they were able to accomplish that.
for sure. Um, and obviously the snout being, the
grand finale.
yeah, it was. I mean, we're talking. This movie's what 44 years old this year, and there's not many werewolf movies that have come since, if any.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's any that have done a transformation better than this.
No, like it would come to my mind immediately, and it just hasn't. It really hasn't.
Yeah,
It really set the precedent.
it did, and it still has. I mean, even what I mean, you're talking Benicio del Toro, his Wolfman. I mean,
Yep.
transformation still, you could tell it was spotty CGI.
Right.
Um,
It was a product of its time.
yeah.
And a victim of it, I should say.
And we've gotten a lot more lately as far as CGI goes. I know that Werewolves movie that just came out last year wasn't great. There's a full review on YouTube from me if you haven't watched it yet. But even that one came out last year, and it doesn't hold a flame to An American Werewolf in London, and it's 43 years younger. So when they're saying like the effects we've got these days are unmatched, there's something to be said about doing things practically, and
right.
They did it really well here in American Werewolf in London, and just an iconic scene. I get the hype behind it after seeing it, and then it leads to his first rampage, which is him taking out taking out an engaged couple, 3 what look like homeless men, and then the guy in the subway, and that subway scene is awesome.
This is where we really get into like slasher movie territory almost. Yeah. It's finally, because honestly, like the movie kind of takes a while to get to the scary parts.
Yeah.
Like when he finally turns, that's whenever the monster is let loose.
Yeah.
And now we can start getting into the kills.
Yeah.
And yeah, those kills were again very like what's the word I'm trying to say? They're very like they're implicative.
Yeah.
They're very implicative. There's not like a whole lot of gruesome effects that they do, and I kind of wish that they would have.
Yeah, I
but
can get behind that.
But still though, they were really spooky and like eerie but yeah, that chase through the subway, that was the best one.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they set the mood really well because the first one is really in the dark with that couple that he picks off right before they're going to that what looks like a dinner party, and then it cuts to it's really dark in that. Then it cuts to these homeless men around a fire, so you're starting to see a little more light. He picks them off. Then you're in the subway with all the light. You see this. You just see the fear in the guy's eyes as he's being chased to the subway. All you hear is the growls.
Yeah.
And you like see him reacting to where the wolf might be. It's just a really good chase scene without even seeing the wolf.
No, the best part you do at the very end whenever he's like he falls back against the steps and he's going up, and the camera's like way up at the top of the escalator, and you can kind of see the wolf crawl into shot, just like his head kind of appears, and that was enough, and then it cuts to something else. That was really excellent, like really excellent stuff right there. Even though they definitely could have gotten away with doing a bunch of violent, gory stuff there.
Yeah,
it was nice to see that
for sure
they chose to do that kill in a certain way.
Yeah, they right after that cuts to the lion because he's sleeping in the zoo naked. Crazy. But he gets back and he's pretty pumped up, and he's now hanging out with Nurse Price again, and Nurse Price gets a call and turn the news on, and that's where he finds out there's 6 murders, and so he gets out because he hears it from the cab driver. And when he's called over to the X-rated movie theater over there in London, and he's now back with the very deteriorated Jack. This is another one of my favorite scenes in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
When he gets to see his 6 victims, and then all 6 of them and Jack are trying to tell him how to kill himself. It's just a crazy scene, but it's cool because that's where you really get to see the aftermath of the kills. You get to see the engaged couple. They're still pretty perky for some reason. The guy in the subway is pissed. The 3 hobos are pissed, but they're all like, he's like, maybe I could put a gun up to my head, and the one guy's like, put it in your mouth so you don't miss, and like they're just telling him how to kill himself, and it's crazy.
It's again, I think it kind of goes back to like this caricature of this American male's ignorance too, and like it takes him actually seeing the people that he's killed for him to finally realize this has to stop.
Yeah.
You know, like even after he, can I cuss on that? Yeah. Even after he fucking woke up in the zoo among wolves, he's still just like tra-la-la's home, and like nothing happened. He's like, I feel great right now. Let's have sex. Like, you know, it like he doesn't stop to wonder, like, I wonder what happened. I've been having all these dreams that are very vivid about me turning into a werewolf. Maybe I did that last night. Like, it takes him actually, his friend, his loved one, actually having to show him, this is what you did.
Yeah.
You have to stop.
Yeah.
You know?
And then we get the phone booth scene, which is, him talking to his little sister saying he loves. And I thought right there we were going to get him, but he still doesn't work up the courage. And then we get another night of him because he still didn't work up the courage to do what's best for the greater good. And, I mean, the theater mutilations are pretty cool. And then we get, like, an epic chase through London with all the cars piled up, and he's down in the alley. And
dude, the escalation, the chaotic escalation in that scene, oh my gosh. Yeah. Just the car pile up and everything, one thing after another.
And then you get reports there's a mad dog out in London, but then Nurse Price runs, and then you get she gets her chance to try to calm him down, and it doesn't to no prevail. So he gets gunned down. But right there we get a really good shot of the wolf too in that alley. And I just gotta say once again, like obviously we talked about how good the practical effects were for the transformation, but the wolf itself too looked amazing in this movie.
Yeah, and honestly, like, not how at least for me, when the first time I watched this movie, the wolf didn't look how I expected the werewolf to look. Like, I don't know, like I'm thinking something more along the lines of the Wolfman, that sort of thing, but maybe a little bit updated to the 80s. But it was very much all fours on the floor, like a wolf.
Yeah.
But, heightened, like dark fur and everything. And...
Yeah, I've always been a fan of the 1941 Wolfman. Is probably like my favorite look for a werewolf.
Yeah. Quintessential.
This might. I don't know if it beats it for me. It's hard to say, but
it's different though.
But
it's really good.
They're on the same level.
Yeah.
As if you're talking about what's the best werewolf in Hollywood history, you're probably talking about Wolfman 41 or this.
Yeah, I would say. An argument could be made for some of the werewolves and maybe the Howling, but
those do look good.
They're definitely more human.
Yeah. Which, speaking of the Howling, we'll have to visit that someday.
I also like the
transformations in that movie as well.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But I like the look of the wolf a lot in this one. This one actually kind of reminded me a little bit of. I know this movie came after American Werewolf in London, but Fright Night, because I had seen Fright Night before I'd seen this.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of that, but I liked it a lot. And then the ending, kind of abrupt, but it was still a good ending for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like they kept going back to that, to making that point throughout the movie. You gotta die. You gotta kill yourself. Whatever. He has to die for the bloodline must end for all of this chaos to stop.
Yeah.
And of course he does, and that's it. That's that. That was The American Werewolf in London.
I remember when I was watching it, I paused it when like the theater scene was starting and it said like 6 minutes left. I'm like, he's just now like, there's only 6 minutes left?
This is the big showdown.
Yeah. But no, I really enjoyed this movie. It did have some good jokes in it as well, sprinkled throughout. Especially, the funniest parts, in my opinion, are when we get conversations between David and Undead Jack.
Yeah. And some of the nightmares, too, like, are so wild that they're funny, but they're also, like the one where, like, these werewolves are fucking shooting his family.
The wolf soldiers, like, busting down his door.
That was so shocking. And like, or whenever she goes to the window when they're in the hospital, she's like, oh well, let me open the window for you, and then like the wolf is like stabbing her to
Yeah.
death. Like
Yeah.
it, like they very much could have. Like they're wolves. Like why didn't they just like show them like eating him to death or something like that? They chose to have him stabbing him, doing
Yeah.
human things.
Yeah.
That just made it even more like wild to me.
I think the first nightmare is when I looked up the movie and saw it was horror comedy because I was like,
Yeah,
what is
like
going on?
this is crazy.
And so I was like, oh, this is
But-
under. I mean, it's definitely. I hate saying horror comedy because it's not as funny as like it's not like a scary movie like spoofy horror comedy.
Yeah,
It's definitely got more horror elements to it.
Yeah.
Especially with the first and third act. You get most of the, the comedy in the second act when he's in the hospital.
Yeah.
Or in the theater when he has 7 people trying to tell him how to unalive himself. But
Well, and then like you really don't notice, and I feel like it's well done, a well done comedy in that way, and that it's not like there's like no music in it other than like, like actual songs.
I was gonna say I liked that.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
didn't really have a score, but
Right.
it had great commercial. I mean, this movie starting with Blue Moon had me in because I
Yeah.
love Blue Moon. It also ends with Blue Moon. He gets shot and it's just like bomb, bada, bomb, 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 bomb. I'm like, okay, that was quite
Yep.
the transition. But we also get Bad Moon Rising
Yep.
as well.
Creedence
like,
Clearwater.
I mean, you get some iconic songs in there that
Great
all
songs.
fit. A lot of them dealing around moons, it seems like, but
Mhm.
they all
Right.
fit the mold of werewolf.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I enjoyed the music a lot in this movie.
But there were no like, boing 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 boing,
Yeah.
like stupid comedy background music
No,
noises.
no.
Like, yeah, you did have to kind of like be. Yeah, it did take that scene, I think, of him having the nightmare, like the shock of that, me realizing that this has to be like goofy,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not smart goofy, but
Yeah.
like crazy,
For sure. It worked. It
Yeah.
worked. Anything else for you in the good? I feel like we just talked about the entire movie.
I mean, like narratively, I think it's pretty well done. I
Yeah.
feel like some of the dialogue could be better, but there are certain beats that are throughout the movie that they like harken back to and they pay off. Like
Yeah.
he was saying that like after he woke up from one of the nightmares, he was like, it's a loved one that say had to kill the wolf.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, like it took her having to like walk over
Yeah.
to him and calm him down for everybody to be able to get a shot on him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was good.
So we can hop over to Med then. I think this movie's too fast. And I was saying particularly the third act. I think I could have used more Werewolf Rampage.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not saying it killed the movie for me because I still think what we got was really good. But like I said, the ending kind of being abrupt, I could have seen more of the chaos ensue if you wanted to make this an hour 45 instead of an hour 30.
Yeah, I would have loved more chaos. But if they were gonna stick to the route that they took, I would be fine with that if there was more maybe exposition for like David is the main character, for David's character.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like I was hooked onto him enough,
Okay.
That and just like I don't know if maybe the characters had better dialogue with each other maybe, or because I again, like I think that it was narratively written well and directed wonderfully. Thank you, John Landis.
Yeah.
But it's still a product of 1980s casting, I think, in
Okay.
a way too, and producing maybe.
Okay.
I just think that it could have been acted better, dialogue could have been better, and if there was exposition and backstory that I could sink my teeth into, maybe more lore or something like
Like
that.
before they get to the slaughtered lamb type of stuff, you mean?
Yeah, because like like I really don't have anything that makes me care
if David dies or not.
about David in that way. Yeah, yeah.
That's fair.
But that's it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. For me, I think it's a little fast on the pacing. I would put the pacing in general in the meh because, like you said, it kind of slows down while we're in the hospital.
Yeah.
It does. And then it's just like once we get that second conversation between him and Jack, it's just like balls to the wall. Here we go.
Right.
We get the transformation. We get some murders. Cab scene, back to the theater, and then murder again, and then boom, movie's over. So I think once we leave the hospital, it kind of picks up, and I don't know, maybe just like you said, maybe you could have smoothed out the pacing by getting more of a backstory or something. So I agree with that. But I still had a really good time watching this movie.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a blast.
So I don't have anything in the bad. I think any gripes I do have, I'd throw in this meh category. But
yeah.
Anything else for you?
I don't believe so.
All right, so we'll hop over to our final thoughts and ratings. What do you want to leave off with American Werewolf in London? What do you give it out of 10?
Man, I really didn't think about this. I'm gonna say a 7.5.
Okay, that's fair.
I'll give it a 7.5.
Okay, for me, I personally am trying not to do halves anymore, and I feel like this is for me the quintessential 8.5. So I've got to decide here.
I get it.
I think just for the fun alone, I'm going to say 9 out of 10.
All right.
Because I really enjoyed watching this movie. I think I can take a point off because I could have used more. And if I think that's your problem at the end of the day, then you probably really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
If it leaves you wanting, to see more of the rampage, but
if we're cutting out the halves, I'll lean towards an 8 then.
Okay. I mean, you don't.
I'll say an 8.
Okay. Yeah, great first watch. It's up there as far as werewolf movies go for me. Silver Bullet was always one growing up I was very fond of. This joins the conversation. The Howling is another one that I've always loved, and I mean the Wolfman 41. You can't do it with the classic. Yeah. I think those four right there might right now be my Mount Rushmore of werewolf movies. Off the top of my head, I didn't really think about that, but those four right there might be my and the American Werewolf in London being the new addition to that.
Yeah, many would say the same. We'll see when Robert Eggers' Werewolf,
yeah,
whatever, comes out.
Which he's also doing a Labyrinth movie that I'm excited.
That too. This guy is just doing everything.
But everything he touches is awesome. So.
Yeah, he doesn't make a bad movie.
No,
I trust him.
But yeah, I had a really good time with this, and I kind of wish I saw it earlier in life.
Yeah, no, honestly, I was probably like a 21 when I watched it the first time. So
yeah,
and it's never too late.
No, never.
You're a young man.
That's the beauty of movies.
Absolutely.
If you're born in 99, that means you get everything that comes out in your lifetime plus everything that came before you.
That's right. So, it's just more lore.
Exactly. The beauty of it. I get to, I get new releases every week, but I also can go back to 81 and see something that I wasn't there for, but
that's right.
I still get access to. No, definitely, like I said, joins the ranks of greats with werewolf movies for me. And honestly, something I might revisit here, like, fairly soon. I had a really good time with it.
Hell
yeah. Especially, having it on tape. This one, for the purpose of going quickly, I watched this one streaming because I had it free through Prime, but I am excited to watch it on tape. So
I'm sure it's.
I feel like it's going to add to the.
Yeah, it's nice and warm on tape.
Yeah, for sure. That'll do it for An American Werewolf in London. Dustin, thank you for coming on.
Hell yeah, brother.
Thank you all for watching. If you like what you're watching, check out some other videos. Hit the subscribe button or follow the social links down below. Stay put. We got An American Werewolf in Paris coming tomorrow, so make sure to check that out. And let us know what you think of An American Werewolf in London. We'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.